Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum everyone and welcome to Divine Allegiance. I'm your host, Maulana Baig. Thank you for joining us. The topic for today, Surah Tauheed. Surah Tauheed, the 112th chapter of the Quran. A chapter that every Muslim knows by heart and every child also knows by heart. A chapter that we recite in our prayers. So we all know the chapter. It has 4 ayat excluding Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And this chapter, the emphasis of this chapter cannot be underestimated. When we look at what this chapter is in Surah Tauheed, we see that the Prophet had said that Surah Tauheed is the light of the Quran, meaning it is the nur of the Quran. Imam Ali has said that Surah Tauheed is 1/3 of the Quran. If someone wants to read the whole Quran, then reading 3 times Surah Ikhlas or Surah Tauheed is equal and has the reward of the whole Quran. In fact, that's what it was said, that when someone asked Imam Ali that he would be known to recite the Quran as he gets on his horse, and they asked him, how does he do that? And it was revealed that he recites Surah Tauheed 3 times, and 3 times is the reward of the whole Quran. Imam Jaffer-e-Sadiq has said that anyone, a Muslim who doesn't recite Surah Tauheed for 3 days, meaning 3 days goes by and you do not recite Surah Tauheed, then you are removed from the circle of believers. So from here we can understand the emphasis of Surah Tauheed, not just in how important that is, but also in its message. It is very dear to Allah because it's a chapter that is describing Allah, that where Allah is defining Himself, where Allah is describing Himself for everyone. And hence, when we look at Surah Tauheed, it is one of those chapters that we want to understand and we want to know what it means. And then, after explaining that, which is important for us, I also want to touch upon a relevant issue that we face today. All of you and most of you are going to face that issue in the situation that we live in today. So we will get to that at the end. So let's go into Surah Tauheed first. Surah Tauheed was revealed by Allah in response to questions that were asked about Allah. The kuffar of Makkah and the Christians and the Jews at different times asked the Prophet regarding Allah and to describe Allah for them. For example, the kuffar of Makkah asked the Prophet in Makkah and said that, listen, Hubal is our God, Lat is our God, Uzza is our God, and they are here sitting in the Kaaba. We can go to them, we can meet them, we can talk to them. Tell us, Muhammad, who is Allah? Can you describe Allah for us so we can see also your God? We want to know Him too. So obviously they thought that they could see Allah or Allah could be described. But in response to that, Allah revealed this chapter. And this chapter is telling about the basic tenet of Islam, which is Tauheed. That's why it gets its name. Meaning Allah's Tauheed, the oneness of God. And it's called Surah Ikhlas because Ikhlas means being free of anything which others attribute to Allah. So Allah is free of everything that people attribute to Him, because it's a habit of human beings throughout history that they personified the idea of God. Whenever they heard God, they wanted God to be something that they can feel or touch or make into a human being or make him look like a human being. So that's where idols come from. And so these people who thought that God was some sort of a person like us, just stronger than us, or mightier than us, or having more power than us, like in the mythological gods of Greeks and Romans and other pagans. They believe that these gods just have powers over us, or they're eternal, or they have more life. But Allah, in one way, wanted to just explain clearly who and what is God. And that's what he does in response. And he reveals this chapter and he tells the Prophet, Qul, tell them. Tell them. Right? And this is important because you see, when it comes to Allah's existence, we can't see him. We don't know him. We know him through what his effects and influences are, but we can't see him. And that's why when Allah says, Qul huwa, say he is the third person pronoun. The third person pronoun is always about about someone who is not here, that we cannot see. He's absent from our view. And hence Allah first tells to the people that, listen, the God that you talk about is a God that cannot be seen. He cannot be observed by your faculties. He's not limited by matter or time or space. He is beyond that. So hence, he is that third person who is absent from your mind, absent from the view, absent from anything that you can use to observe things. So on one hand, the existence of Allah is imperceptible. It is indiscernible. It's not observable. That is the existence of Allah. But on the other hand, his presence and his influence is in everything. You see who Allah is. Meaning, when it comes to his existence and his being, yes, there is no way that you can perceive or conceive of Allah, of God. But when it comes to his presence, then you can feel his presence and know his presence from all the influence and effects that he has. Meaning everything in this world is an effect of Allah. It is an influence of Allah. He is so clear that anyone who just looks around will know God without seeing him, without observing him. Allah speaks about this in this ayat of the Quran, chapter 41, verse number 53, Surah Fussilat. He says, Sanurihim ayatina fil afaq wa fi anfusihim hatta yatabayyana lahum annahu al-haq. We will soon show them our signs in the universe and in their own selves until it will become quite clear to them that he is the truth. They will know that he is the truth by looking at every effect that he has left behind, by looking at his influence in everything that is around them. They will know that there is God and he is the truth. So that is his presence, not his existence. Here Allah defines his existence as a third person who's absent from your faculties, unable to be observed or conceived. So this is Huwa. And then Allah says, who is he? He is Allah. The word Allah, when you look at the word Allah, it comes from the word walaha. Walaha means to be mystified, to be perplexed, to be baffled. And the reason that this word Allah is given a proper name for Allah, it's not like the other names of Allah, which is an attribute of Allah, like Rahman is an attribute of Allah, Rahim is an attribute of Allah, but Allah is the proper name. meaning you want to give someone a proper name, that is Allah. And the root is walaha. Walaha means to be mystified. The reason it's there is because of the fact that the mind, the intellect, the reason, and our thinking is perplexed and mystified by Allah, by His existence, by His being. Imam Ali, in his hadith, describes this and defines this. He says that Allahu ma'nahul ma'bud. He says that Allah, His meaning is the one who is worshipped. Alladhi ya'lahu fihi al-khalq. He is the one who's worshipped that the whole creation is mystified by. They're baffled by Him. They are baffled by Him. وَيُؤْلَهُ إِلَيْهِ وَاللَّهُ هُوَ الْمَسْطُورُ عَنْ دَرْكِ الْأَبْصَارِ الْمَحْجُوبُ عَنِ الْأَوْهَامِ وَالْخَطَرَاتِ. He says that Allah is hidden from the sight and imperceptible by imagination and inconceivable by reason. So in reality, Allah's existence cannot be reached, cannot be comprehended. No one can say, yeah, I know God. No, I know of Him. I can see His effects. I know that Allah exists. So the mind can just take you to prove that Allah exists. But what Allah is, it's incomprehensible. This is the meaning that Allah is giving. So that Allah is what? Allahu Ahad. Qul huwa Allah Ahad. He is one. One in the meaning of unique, meaning no one is like Him. No one is like Him. And that is who Allah is. That there is no one who is like Allah. This word Allah itself is beautiful. It has been used 1,000 times in the Quran. Allah has been used. And Allah is a name that illuminates the hearts of those who take it. Whenever you take the name of Allah, it illuminates. It makes it nurani. It makes it enlightened. It empowers creation. Everyone who takes it becomes powerful. They gain power. It's a source of energy. Whenever you feel down, take the name of Allah and you will see that that energy will be infused into you. That spiritual energy. It brings about peace. When you take the name of Allah, you will see that whatever trouble you're in, whatever problem you're in, there will be a peace and a calm and serenity that just flows into you. And it engulfs the person who takes the name of Allah in a world that is pure and light. And hence, this beautiful name of Allah is how Allah mentions that, say it is Allah. He is Allah, the one, the unique. The unique. And then from here, Allah goes forward and says, Allahu Samad, describing Himself in another way. Now, Allah is Samad. Now, I'm going to go a little bit into this word Samad, because Samad has many meanings. Samad, the word, has many meanings. Literally. Not in relationship to Allah, but literally. For example, Samad means someone who is great. Meaning that the one who is at the topmost, where everyone looks up to. Samad literally means problem solver, or what we call mushkil kusha. Someone who solves problems. Any problem that you're in and someone who solves it for everyone, this is known as Samad. Someone who solves problems. And everyone turns to him in times of problems. Samad means intended, maqsood, meaning that someone that everyone intends to reach, intends to go to. Everyone is intending to go to him. That person is Samad. When you say that this person is Samad, it means that everyone looks up to him, they're intending to go to him. And samad means strong, that everyone depends on. You see that one person who's so strong in a family or a community that everyone depends on him to get the job done, because they know that if no one can do it, he can do it. That is called samad. That person is called samad. So in relationship to the meaning samad, now you see that the tafsir in relationship to Allah are many. There are many meanings of the word samad. In fact, there is not a single word in the Quran that has more interpretations and commentary and explanation than the word samad. When Allah says Allahu Samad, it is the most commentaried word in the Quran. So I'm not going to go into detail of that. Just one hadith from Imam Hussein. From Imam Hussein, I'll share this hadith with you because people from Basra asked Imam Hussein that we were having discussions regarding Allah and we came to the word Samad. So tell us what this Samad is. What is Samad? And so Imam Hussein starts off in reply to them, tells them that don't argue about the Quran when you have no knowledge of it. Because I heard Rasulullah say, my grandfather Rasulullah say, that anyone who argues regarding the Quran without knowledge, there is a special place for him in the hellfire that Allah has made. Yes, you get the exclusive suite of hell. When you argue or talk about the Quran without knowledge. Quran is not a play toy that you can play around with. It is Allah's book. And the knowledge of that is with Allah or those that Allah has given knowledge to. He mentions that in the Quran. I don't want to get into that, but I see that there's a lot of ignorant people who truly do not understand that. They feel that they can just read the Quran and give explanation of the Quran. What you understand from the Quran is for you, not for you to teach others, not for you to tell to others, oh, this is what the ayat means. No, I understood that from the ayat, that's it. It's for you, not to be told. You just need to pray to Allah that Allah help me to increase our knowledge. Rabbi zidni ilma. When Rasulullah is not ashamed to ask for more knowledge, then we should not be ashamed to ask for more knowledge. So Imam Hussein tells these people, don't argue about the Quran. It's not good for you all because it is dangerous. And don't be doing that. So hence, he now comes to them and says, listen, Allah explains that in the ayat after it. As to what is Samad. He explains that. And what is after it? He says, Lam yalid walam yulad walam yakun lahu kufuwan ahad. This is the explanation of Samad. This is what Samad is. When Allah is saying Allahu Samad, then Lam yalid walam yulad walam yakun lahu kufuwan ahad. It's an explanation of Samad. Imam Hussein is saying that Allah is doing the tafsir of that. Don't try to do tafsir of yourself. And hence, Imam Hussein mentioned to them some of the things that is the meaning of Samad. Meaning that everyone looks up to him, everyone depends on him. Allah is the greatest of all that everyone is under. That is Samad. So who is he? Lam yalid wa lam yulad. Literally it means the one who does not beget, nor is he begotten. Not in just in terms of children or birth, as is the case with, for example, the Christians, you might say, because Allah is now rejecting the idea that the Christians have given, rejecting the idea that the kuffar have done. All the people who describe Allah, he's rejecting that idea and saying that, listen, neither does anything, child or anything else, comes out of Allah And Imam Hussein explains that, for example, like non-material things like children don't come out of Allah, of God. Or for example, like objects coming out, like milk from a cow. There's nothing that comes out from Allah like that. Nor subtle things like the soul. Allah doesn't have a soul that's inside of him that's keeping him alive like us, which comes out of us when we die. Or for example, effects like sleep and imagination and sorrow and grief and happiness and sadness. This is not that. There's nothing like that that comes out of Allah like that. God is superior to all of these things coming out, nor does Allah come from anything else. This is Allah. So, in short, he's describing, and there's nothing that you can give as an example that can equate to Allah. Meaning, lam yakun lahu kufuwan ahad. Nothing can be given as an example that can be given to Allah. This is a description of Surah Tauheed. I mentioned this. It's important for us to really ponder over it. The arguments that Allah put, I didn't really go into a lot of the arguments that Allah really put and logical arguments that are there as to what is ahad and what is the meaning of one. It is a logical argument regarding what oneness is, what Allah is, and hence I'm not going to go into that. Just I want to point out something to you all which is very important, and that is that I had many questions from parents. Many parents, I will not say one or two, but many parents called me and concerned and worried about their children who are in college. Because when children go to college, they usually come about professors who are atheists or agnostics, who don't believe in God. But then when these students come to their class, they feel it is their ordained duty to make sure that they can make fun of God or anyone who believes in God, so that the people who are in class can be intimidated by their bullying and by their arguments that they give in such a way that if you don't agree with him, then they will make you the butt of jokes in the class. And this is what they do. And they will say, well, let's talk about something illogical like religion. Ha 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 ha. And so with the laughter, the kid who at home has learned there is Allah, there's Imams, there's Rasulullah, there's Quran that was revealed from Allah. So obviously that professor regards all of this like hocus pocus, some sort of mythical thing, that, listen, don't bring that here. We are here to talk about logic. When the professor has no clue what logic is, ask him, what is the definition of logic? And then you will see it doesn't work like that. He has no clue. But because these children are impressionable, and they talk to them like that, and they tell them, go and bring your proof. I want to see something of a proof. I want to see it in my own eyes. Just like the ignorant people had said to the prophets, we want to see Allah with our own eyes before we say anything, And Allah is saying, listen, he cannot be seen. You think he can be seen? Because he is not matter. He's not a material thing that could be observed. And hence these people, they use these wrong ideas or these wrong intimidation tactics against people who believe in God. Now, of course, that child who is in his class, he doesn't have proofs. He hasn't studied how to prove the existence of God. There is proofs of existence of God. And we should go through that. All the proofs of existence. In fact, really, logic, reasoning, and aql is to prove non-material things, not to prove material things. The whole concept of aql and intellect is to prove things that are not matter. You don't need aql to prove matter. For example, physical sciences like chemistry and physics, you don't need intellect. Intellect has no part in physics. It has nothing to do with chemistry. And chemistry and physics and biology have nothing to do with intellect, because those are observational sciences. You learn those things by observing, not by thinking. You don't need to think. You just need to observe. You just need to cut open a body and see. You don't need to think and use your intellect to know sciences. For example, if I ask you, how tall are you? If I ask someone, how tall are you? Now, I can think from now until I go to the grave. I would not know for sure how tall you are unless I come and measure you. This is called observational sciences, knowledge that's based on observation, not on thinking. You don't need a mind to become a doctor. You don't need a mind to become a physicist or a chemist. That has nothing to do with intellect, with computation. Computation and intellect is meant for sciences that have to do with non-material things. And that's why Allah gave aql to us to learn about non-material things. That professor who tells the child, so show me God. I want to see him. I haven't seen God. Have you seen God? Where is the proof of God? Okay, good. I would tell the student, just ask him, it's okay, show me knowledge. I want to see knowledge. You have knowledge, obviously, it is known by the degrees that are hanging on your wall. But can you show me knowledge? Can you weigh how much it is? Can I observe it before I can believe it? It is a nonsensical question, because just like knowledge, everything that doesn't have matter, because knowledge is an immaterial thing. It's non-material. That's why you cannot point it, you cannot prove it, you cannot observe it. God is just like that, meaning more than that, but I'm saying, just like knowledge is unobservable, God is unobservable. It is really important for our children to understand Tauheed, first to know the existence of God and the proofs of the existence of God. To know what it is, it's based on logic and reasoning, and know where reasoning is used, where intellect is used. Because these professors, they will give these arguments and they will bring forward these arguments to make these children impressionable young minds who obviously, when they don't know the answer, they go to their parents. And the parents don't know those details as to how to prove that. And you know what? Unfortunately, let's not go further. They'll go to ulama and probably, maybe that's more messed up, up there. But still, when we look at it, we see that people, they don't explain to them, or they don't go into the idea of what logic is and where it's used for Allah's Tawheed. This is why it is essential in our communities to discuss about Tawheed and about the existence of God, and knowing God in proving the existence of God. Yes, our hearts have proven His existence. We don't need these proofs, but just so that those people who question us and who are creating doubts in our children, we are able to defend those doubts and help them to understand Tawheed, so that they do not get lost. And many children do get lost. We need to protect our children by protecting and helping them understand what Tauheed is and existence of God. Surah Tauheed is a good place to start. See the reasoning behind it, go through it, discuss it, make sure that youngsters understand it. Sunday schools should be doing this job better, but unfortunately the people who teach there don't know how to prove God, and that's why you see there's weakness there also. So we all, teachers also at Sunday school, must know the reasonings and the arguments of God and the existence of God and proving the existence of God as much as they are able to teach the children that and make them strong. So I ask Allah to give us the tawfiq in this month of Ramadan to learn more about Him and to get that certainty and knowledge that we need to know about our own faith. Thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you for watching Divine Allegiance. We hope you like the show. If you like the show, please go on and hit the like button below and subscribe to our channel and share with your family and friends to spread the message. I'm your host Maulana Baig. Until next time, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.